Resident Evil Requiem is a terrible game. According to DSP, of course.
Oh, come on! That's bullshit. You need to be able to hit him quick. And you can't because he fucking moves and...
Really, Robert? What? You missed the shot! What the fuck do you... I myself, I enjoyed Resident Evil Requiem a lot, and I'm actually on my journey to get the Platinum Trophy on the PlayStation. I just have the Insanity run left to do. And I believe it's one of the best Resident Evil games ever. Now, where does it rank up in the tier list? Well, that's what the video today is going to be about. Today I'm going to be ranking all Resident Evil mainline games in a tier list. So we got multiple tiers over here. So I have a 1 rank tier. Now I did play every Resident Evil game there is, all 30 of them, now with Resident Evil Requiem. I decided to do only a mainline ranking because I'm pretty sure that's what most people who play Resident Evil today actually played and know the most about. So I wouldn't do any of the spin-offs. I might do it in a future video, but it's not going to be today. So as you can see, we have multiple tiers in this tier list. So the worst one we got is Hasta Luego.
Hasta luego.
Tier is just Resident Evil games that we absolutely do not need, or they are terrible, as in we can do without them. We have okay, which is sort of just meh, or just like it's okay. Then we have good tier, which means it's pretty good. Then we have great, which is absolutely fantastic. And then we have the Residents Are Evil, the best of the best. The GOAT status is in that tier. These are the games we're going to be ranking. So we got Resident Evil 1 OG, we got Resident Evil 1 Remake, we got Resident Evil 2 OG, Resident Evil 2 Remake, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, Resident Evil 3 Remake, Resident Evil 0, Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 4 Remake, Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 6, Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 8, and last but not least, Resident Evil Requiem, or Resident Evil 9. Now, this is going to be my personal ranking of these mainline Resident Evil games, and if you disagree in any way, you are wrong. This is the definitive Resident Evil mainline ranking, and if you do not agree with any of these, you are wrong. Very much so. But on a serious note, let's start the video. First up, we got Resident Evil 1, the one that started it all, and it is a pretty good game at the time. This is where Resident Evil kickstarted, and it was phenomenal at the time. I remember playing it when I was a kid. In this game, we got introduced to some of the main characters in the franchise, such as, you know, Jill Valentine, Chris Roitfield, and Albert Wesker. I think it was a great game at the time, but nowadays it's pretty much voided unnecessary. And that's because of one thing, which is Resident Evil 1 Remake that's going to come out after this. We got introduced to the mechanics of what Resident Evil will be. We have safe rooms, inventory management, bunch of playable characters. We got introduction to Spencer, and this place actually takes in Spencer's mansion mostly. Albert Wesker's true motives, and just in general, the general idea of what Resident Evil games are gonna become. However, I do not think it holds up well today, mainly because the voice acting is absolutely terrible and so corny, which is so bad that it's actually very funny, and it's kind of fun when you play it.
Stop it! Don't open that door!
I know I just said that it's not good because of the voice acting, but it is at the same time, and it's just weird. I'll personally put this game in Hasta Luego, not because it's so bad, just because of what came after, which is Resident Evil 1 Remake. I believe Resident Evil 1 Remake is the absolute definitive way of what and how to do a remake. The updated graphics, the gameplay is much smoother, while keeping this sort of CCTV camera sort of perspective. Better voice actors for the characters.
I'll go and check it out.
All right. Jill and I will stay and secure this area.
Some of the iconic moments in this game is obviously the first time you see a zombie when he turns his face. That is a staple in Resident Evil. And of course, you got the dogs and the famous jump scare when it jumps out of the window while you're playing as Chris, and it's just so fucking scary when you first play it, especially as a kid. And just the vibes, the mansion, it was just absolutely amazing. Now, I did not like the fucking shark room. Holy shit, was that fucking very scary to fucking walk through, especially because they got a one-shot kill if they grab you, and it's absolutely crazy. This game is just absolutely amazing, and I would absolutely rank it great tier. Truly phenomenal game and a perfect remake. It literally just made Resident Evil OG void. Like, there's absolutely no reason for you to play the OG because this one exists, and that's why I put the OG in Hasta Luego, because this one right here is the true Resident Evil 1. Next up, we got Resident Evil 2 OG, and oh my god, what a fucking game. In Resident Evil 2, we got introduced to, in my opinion, the best character in the franchise, and definitely the most iconic character in this franchise, which is Leon S. Kennedy. And along with that, we also got introduced to Claire Redfield, Ada Wong, and Sherry. We also got introduced to some of the most iconic villains, you could say, in the game, which is the Tyrant, aka Mr. X. Which, fun fact, by the way, a lot of people that played the OG Resident Evil 2, they didn't even know Mr. X existed, mainly because the audio cut out here for some reason, but I was gonna say that they didn't know because he only appeared in scenarios B. We also got introduced to these scary, motherfucking annoying characters, which are the Lickers. It also introduced Raccoon City, the iconic RPD, and overall the vibe of the game, and the way the game even looks, even today, is just such a cozy vibe, and so nostalgic for the people who played it, and for me specifically. It's absolutely a masterpiece, and the OST for this game is so fucking beautiful. Also, one of the most memorable thing about this game is the zapping system mechanic that they have in this game, which basically means that because you play Leon and Claire, right, if you take a weapon, let's say from a locker as Leon, when you play Claire and you go to that exact same locker, well, it's not there because guess what? You took it as Leon. And that sort of mechanic is just so good for this game because it just makes this game super replayable. And every time you play, you have a different experience while playing it, and it just feels fresh and exciting, and it just offers a lot of game time. I would put Resident Evil 2 OG in Residents Are Evil category. Like, it is truly a staple of a Resident Evil game. Now, a quick FYI before I start, the placement within the same category does matter. So whatever I put on the far left side is going to be better than what I put on the right side. Next up, we got Resident Evil 2 Remake. And holy shit, it's so fucking beautiful. So this was the first remake that they did in the new and established RE engine, and the game absolutely looks phenomenal. The graphics are so fucking crispy. The updated gameplay mechanic with the third perspective that we all know from modern games today is there, and it's just so good. The gunplay feels absolutely amazing. The new and updated Raccoon City and the RPD and the sewers and the lab, it's all absolutely amazing. And specifically when you combine that with the new game mechanics that we have in this game, it's just amazing. The voice acting is absolutely improved, and it's so good for all characters. The zombies are absolutely terrifying in this game, and the way that they move and the overall creepy vibe that is in, RPD is just so fucking scary and makes your skin absolutely crawl, while also having to sort of do the puzzles and whatnot. Is just absolute perfection. Also, I believe this game is where Mr. X is the best that he's ever been. In Resident Evil 2 OG, he was just sort of there, right? He wasn't as iconic as he is today, and that's hugely because of how they made him a pursuer in this game for both sides, Leon and Claire, and the added sound detail and the way he looks in this game and whatnot, and he is easily one of the best parts about this game. At least in my opinion. Marvin Brenna is more fleshed out in this game, and he's more pronounced, and you actually see more of him because he's the one who helps, new rookie Leon S. Kennedy. And the whole thing with having two different scenarios, Leon scenario A or B, or Claire scenario A or B, and the way that you can sort of connect them together is just so beautiful. The only thing that I would say is kind of missed in Resident Evil 2 is the zapping system. It's not here. Although there's different scenarios you could play, there is no actual zapping system in the game, which is kind of disappointing, but it really doesn't hinder the overall game. For me, I would put Resident Evil 2 in the Residents Are Evil category. And in my opinion, I do believe that it surpasses the OG Resident Evil 2. This game is just absolutely perfection. And it's definitely my favorite on this list so far. Next up, we got Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. This is the OG. We'll get to the Resident Evil 3 remake in a second. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis also takes place in Raccoon City. It's sort of the same timeline as Resident Evil 2. And this time we're playing as the iconic character Jill Valentine. The level design for this game is absolutely incredible, as all the previous games has been so far. Although I do not like the design as much as I did for Resident Evil 2 OG, it's still fucking amazing. It's in Raccoon City. And there is a segment where you're also in the RPD. Jill has a new dodge mechanic in this game where she just rolls out, but it never really worked out because it's very inconsistent, and if you do it wrong, then you'll pretty much die every time. However, the gunplay for Resident Evil 3 Nemesis is good and is very on par with the previous games so far. And the CCTV camera angles is also within this game is absolutely amazing, and it always gives that excitement of, ooh, what's gonna be behind this door or behind this corridor, and it's just so good. We also got introduced to fucking Nemesis, the pursuer, the main pursuer of this game, and he is absolutely terrifying. Much like Mr. X in Resident Evil 2, Nemesis in this game is the main pursuer. And I remember as a kid, I was absolutely terrified of him. He has the iconic rocket launcher, he has the multiple phases, and he's just an absolute monster. Overall, I'll put Resident Evil 3 Nemesis in, again, the Residents Are Evil category. Resident Evil has a lot of fucking good games. However, I do prefer Resident Evil 2 OG and Resident Evil 2 Remake over Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. That's just my opinion. Next up, we got Resident Evil 3 Remake, and years later, it still leaves a sour taste in my mouth. Resident Evil 3 Remake was the second game that got a remake in the new and improved RE engine. The game looks absolutely great, the graphics are incredible, much like Resident Evil 2 Remake. The gameplay is also updated to be like modern games with the standard third-person perspective, and you can aim and shoot and walk at the same time. Jill Valentine is still amazing in this game, and her dodge mechanic is actually improved a lot since Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, and it's actually pretty good now. Carlos is also still in this game, and he's way more fleshed out than he's ever been with the OG. And for me, he's an interesting character, and he's so fucking hilarious.
Dr. Bard, are you in there? I'm here to rescue you. Open the door.
No voice match found.
Voice match? What kind of sci-fi bullshit is this?
Nemesis is back, and he absolutely looks terrifying. He can fucking run in this game. He can pursue you throughout the game, and he's absolutely still terrifying. However, here's where my compliments end and my complaints start to begin. I believe Resident Evil 3 Remake as a game is very fun to play, and it's pretty good. However, it is a bad Resident Evil game, or at the very least a bad Resident Evil Remake game. They cut like 50% of the content that was there in the original, and they never really put anything new in this game. Raccoon City Park, Graveyard, City Hall, Clock Tower are just a few of the things that would cut out in this game that were so iconic in the original. And I just don't understand it. You can literally beat this game in like 3.5 hours, 4 hours, and that's like your first playthrough. And it's especially disappointing because we saw what they did with Resident Evil 2 Remake and how amazing it was, and in this case it even surpasses Resident Evil 2 OG for me, and they just fell so short with the RE3 Remake. I would have to put Resident Evil 3 Remake at okay. Like I said, as a game, this game is very fun to play, although short, but it's a bad Resident Evil game because of this cut content. Next up, we got Resident Evil 0, and I absolutely love this game. We get to play as Rebecca Chambers in this game, and we also get to play a convict named Billy Cohen. And I absolutely love Billy Cohen. He's so fucking badass. The game famously takes place mostly in the moving train, the Ecliptic Express. And I just love the overall map design and the vibe of the game. It's just so fucking good. You know, you get to play as two characters and it's very fun. However, the decision to remove storage in this game is so fucking stupid. Why do I have to put my shit on the ground and have to keep going back and forth just to get some of the stuff that I want to progress the story or you know, some ammo or whatnot? Like, it's just so stupid. And because we had storages before, why remove it now? Like, it's just tedious for the sake of being tedious. It doesn't add any challenge to this. Having to go back and pick some ammo or some key items and whatnot, and having to go through waves and waves of zombies while still trying to preserve ammo for bosses, because guess what? You can get soft locked in this game if you don't have enough ammo. It's just so fucking tedious, and like a lot of the times it's not fun. Like, it really isn't. And it's a shame because I believe the story is nice, the characters are amazing, the overall vibe of this game is just so fucking good. The OST, everything is just so crispy. But then you have this decision to not put any storage and just leave items on the ground and having to backtrack back and forth. It's just so fucking stupid. Like, why? And like I said, in this game, you can get soft locked a lot of time. I remember playing this game as a kid and I got all the way to the end, and I got soft locked at the final boss, the Queen Leash, and because I didn't have any ammo or anything, and I had to restart the game from the beginning because my dumbass didn't save, and it was just stupid. But still, soft locking in this game is very common, and it's just so stupid, especially because you don't have a storage. Overall, I would rank Resident Evil 0 in good. It has its problems, mainly the storage and the soft locks, but I just love it. I have so many memories with this game, and I truly enjoy it most of the times. So I do believe it's better than Resident Evil 3 Remake, in my opinion. Next up, we got Resident Evil 4 OG, and oh my god. Resident Evil 4 is the first horror game that I ever played in my life. I was 5 years old at the time, and I played it on the PlayStation 2, and then I played it on the Wii, and it was just absolutely beautiful. I can't tell you how many times I replayed this game as a kid, and I played it even recently before Resident Evil 4 Remake came out, and I was just still madly in love with this game. This is the first action horror Resident Evil in the franchise, and they absolutely crushed it. We play again as the iconic Leon Kennedy, now a little bit more matured up. This takes place years after Resident Evil 2, and Leon now is tasked to save the president's daughter, Ashley. This is the first Resident Evil game to change its perspective into a sort of tank gameplay mechanic, which is basically you walk around in third person and then you aim and you stand still, and this is where you shoot your enemies. And it just absolutely fucking worked. You had a huge ass inventory system, you had weapon upgrades, we got introduced to the iconic merchant, and one of the best lines in video game history.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
There's absolutely no complaints that I can say about Resident Evil 4. Like, genuinely, it is pure perfection. And even today, it still holds up incredibly well. Iconic one-liners.
I'm expecting you, my brethren.
No thanks, bro.
Amazing boss fights. Some of the best guns in the entire franchise. I mean, seriously. The weapons in this game has its own fan base. You have the iconic Red 9, the Butterfly, the fucking Killer 7, and so much more. Like, I swear, the weapons, like I said, has its own fan base. The story, the gameplay, the characters, Leon, Ashley, Ada. We also got introduced to the merchant, like I said, the Big Cheese, Mendez, Salazar, Luis, Lord Salazar, Krauser. Like, this game had it all. I don't think I need to say more. Resident Evil 4 is in the Residents Are Evil category, and it is the best Resident Evil game easily for me in this list so far. Next up, we got Resident Evil 4 Remake. And oh my gosh, whatever I just said for Resident Evil 4 directly translated and put it in here. This game absolutely slaps. This is the third time they remade a Resident Evil game with the RE engine, and it's in Resident Evil 4 Remake. And again, with the updated graphics, the updated gameplay mechanics, and some new mechanics as well, like the sort of semi-open world that you have when you're crossing the lake and whatnot. This game is just absolutely perfect. And also what I specifically like about the remakes and what they're doing is that they're connecting every Resident Evil game to each other and making it like a whole story. And this is just amazing. Leon is still badass. The iconic lines are still there, although not all of them. I still really miss that your right hand comes off. Like, it was just so fucking funny.
I've sent my right hand to dispose of you.
Your right hand comes off?
That being said, cheesy one-liners are there, the iconic characters are there, and specifically Luis is way more fleshed out in this game than he was in the OG, and he's one of the best parts in this game. The merchant is back, everything is back, and it's just so fucking good. And Ashley is finally not super fucking annoying like she was in Resident Evil 4. Now, if you look at RE4 Remake objectively, it is better than the OG. I mean, the graphics are better, the gameplay is technically better. Everything's a little bit more fleshed out. It takes itself more seriously. However, I am very, very biased to Resident Evil 4 OG. It's the first horror game that I ever played. And I would rank Resident Evil 4 Remake indefinitely the Residents Are Evil. However, I would put Resident Evil 4 OG just a little bit still on top of it. Mainly because Resident Evil 4 Remake doesn't make Resident Evil 4 OG useless. Like, I believe that you should still play Resident Evil 4 OG because it has its own charms and is still absolutely playable today, and you should play it as well because it is that good. I find myself replaying Resident Evil 4 Remake more than the OG, and I absolutely love the Resident Evil 4 Remake. I would personally rank them at the same level, but for the sake of this tier list, I have to put the OG at number 1 still, just because of its iconic status in the video game industry. Next up, we got Resident Evil 5. Here we play as Chris Punch a Boulder Redfield, and we play as Shiva, and this game for me is kind of a mixed bag. Chris Redfield is back and he's absolutely amazing. Shiva was introduced newly in this game and she is actually a great character. Also, Albert Wesker is back as the main villain and easily the best villain in this franchise so far. He is absolutely amazing at this game and he's so fucking iconic. 7 minutes. 7 minutes is all I can spare to play with you. Like, it's just so iconic.
7 minutes. 7 minutes is all I can spare to play with you.
There's two ways that you can play this game, and the way that you play this game would determine whether you will love this game or whether you would hate it. I played this game both solo and with a friend, and they're two completely different experiences. If I was ranking this on a solo playthrough, I would genuinely put Resident Evil 5 in Hasta Luego. I just don't like it. I don't necessarily like the setting and the game vibe at being in Africa, and I don't like how it's just pure action. Like, every element of survival horror in this game is just absolutely gone, and as a Resident Evil game, you should still kind of have that. Now yes, Resident Evil 4 was also action horror more than it was survival horror, but it still had elements of a survival horror game. Resident Evil 5, absolutely nothing. Resident Evil 4 was able to sort of balance it out technically, but Resident Evil 5 just went all out ballistic. There's absolutely no puzzles, not really, in this game. The gameplay can be fun, sort of, but like, it's nothing memorable, at least for me. However, I am ranking this based on my playthrough when I played it with my friend. When you have a friend that can play with you in this game, it is so fucking amazing. It's an absolute 180 of what you experience in solo. When you play it solo, the AI companion absolutely sucks. They're useless. They're fucking terrible. When you play with a friend, it's such a good time, and I highly recommend any of you people who still haven't played Resident Evil 5 or played Resident Evil 5 and didn't really like it, trust me, play with a friend. It'll be 10 times better. Also, this is the game where the iconic Chris punching a fucking boulder scene happens. It's just absolutely ridiculous, and yet it's so fucking good. I actually do hope that in the remake, there is a little bit of a mention at least, or I actually do hope in the remake that Chris does punch some kind of boulder. Like, you just have to, for the memes at this point. But overall, I would rank Resident Evil 5 in okay. I believe the remake of Resident Evil 5 is gonna absolutely be fucking amazing, especially if they go with the same route that they did with Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 4. I believe that they're gonna absolutely cook hard, and I do believe they're actually gonna redeem Resident Evil 5. So I did make a mistake here. I wanted to put Resident Evil 5 above Resident Evil 3 Remake. In my opinion, Resident Evil 5 is better than the Resident Evil 3 Remake. So yeah. My bad here, but it is over Resident Evil 3 Remake. Coming next, we have Resident Evil 6. I'm gonna keep this short and sweet. Why? Just why? In Resident Evil 6, you play a lot of characters and a lot of campaign. The game is very long. You play as Leon, Helena, Chris, Piers, Ada, Jake, Sherry, and it's a lot. It was a very ambitious project from Capcom to do this, but they didn't really nail it. It's a full-on action game. Like, there is absolutely no horror elements in this game, even as a kid. Like, at this point, the Resident Evil franchise was like the Fast and Furious franchise. Like, everything was just so fucking blown out and so fucking ridiculous, it didn't make any sense. The UI is terrible. The story is terrible. The gameplay is fine. It's just too much. Like, they're doing too much. And it's tedious for the sake of being tedious. So with that all being said, I still absolutely love this game. Like, I'm sorry. I just have so many experiences playing with my brothers and my cousins, and it was a very fun time. And again, same with Resident Evil 5, it is a very fun game to play with friends, like, legit. Now, objectively, this game is absolutely horrible, and it's definitely one of the worst Resident Evil games that ever came out. However, I have some nostalgia playing this game, as well as I believe it's still a very fun game to play with a friend. That's the term, with a friend. So with that being said, I would actually rank Resident Evil 6 in okay. However, I do prefer Resident Evil 5 over it. Next up, we got Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, and this is where Resident Evil took a turn. We got introduced to a new character, which is Ethan Winters. And holy shit, this game just brought the franchise back to the living. Resident Evil 7 is the scariest Resident Evil game that I ever played. By far. We are finally back to a survival horror Resident Evil after being stuck for a long time with more action-oriented Resident Evil games. And man, did they fucking nail it. The decision to make the gameplay in first person while you're playing as Ethan is just absolutely magnificent. It just amped up the horror elements in this game, and overall it just fits Ethan Winters. We also got introduced to Mia and the Baker family in this game, and man, like, they are fucking terrifying. The gunplay is smooth, the Baker family is absolutely terrifying, and they're so fucking well written. And the voice acting in this game is absolutely incredible.
Ethan?
And the story as well is very good. Like, overall, this game is the real deal, and it's a complete package, and it's just amazing, and it came at a perfect moment, and it came out to save the franchise, and oh boy was it successful. We never would have gotten the remakes if it wasn't for this game, and I'm so glad that this game existed and came out. Some of the things I didn't like about this game, though, is that there's no enemy variety. You mostly fight the mold, and they have like 3 variations, but that's that. There isn't no zombies or anything like that. So after a certain time, it did become kind of like boring in a way that there is nothing new. Also, the final acts of the game is not really that good in the whole boat area. And the fucking decision whether to save Zoe or Mia, like, who thought of that? Like, it's such a no-brainer. Why would I save a stranger when the whole mission is for me to save my wife, Mia? Like, huh? Also, Chris Redfield cameo at the end, that is not Chris. I'm pretty sure we all established that. Overall, I would put Resident Evil 7 Biohazard and Resident are Evil tier. Like, it is a magnificent game and the scariest game in the Resident Evil franchise, and it came at such a clutch moment that got back the franchise to the highest team that it once had. However, I do think that all these games before it are better in my opinion. The second to last game we have here is Resident Evil 8 or Resident Evil Village, and it continues the story of Ethan Winters, this time looking to save his daughter Rose. And overall, this game is so fucking fun to play with, and it's actually pretty good. Chris Redfield is back in this game and he's absolutely amazing like he's always been. And this game also introduced a lot of lore about the whole Umbrella Corporation and how it started and whatnot, with, you know, Mother Miranda's story and all of that, and it's just so good. It also has one of the most iconic villains today, which is Lady Dimitrescu, and oh boy, I don't need to say anything, right? However, this game was not as scary as Resident Evil 7, and because of that high that we got from Resident Evil 7, we went into this game expecting a little bit more of that, but it went back to being a little more action-oriented. Just a little bit, especially with Chris Redfield going all fucking Call of Duty Spec Ops. The best part in this game for me was definitely the castle area, the Lady Dimitrescu area, and also the House of Bienvenido, which is the scariest part in this game, and it was actually terrifying. But after that, for me, it's sort of starting to drop down a little bit. Still being good, don't get me wrong, but it's just not at the same level of quality as Resident Evil 7, in my opinion. Overall, I believe it's a very fun game, and it's a very good Resident Evil game. I would put it definitely in great tier. However, I do prefer Resident Evil 1 Remake over Resident Evil Village. Last but not least, we have Resident Evil Requiem, the newest entry in the Resident Evil franchise. And man, oh man, they absolutely killed it. I do have a review up on the channel if you guys want to check that out, where I go more into detail. But in general, this game is absolutely amazing. We are introduced to Grace Ashcroft, which is the daughter of Alyssa Ashcroft from Resident Evil Outbreak, and she's an amazing character. She's an FBI agent, and also Leon is back in this game finally in all his glory, and he is just as badass as he always was. The best part about this game for me is the sudden whiplash that you get when you change from playing Grace to playing Leon. With Grace, it's pure Resident Evil survival horror at its finest, and it's just so good and so fucking scary and tense. The way you have to manage inventory and whatnot, it's just absolutely perfection. And then you switch to third person Leon, and it's just a complete 180 from Grace's first person segments, and it's just chef's kiss. The game also takes us back to Raccoon City almost 30 years later, and it's just so fucking good and so fucking heartwarming, and it's like truly a love letter from Capcom to the fans. The fan service in this game is also absolutely amazing without also being shoehorned or kind of gimmicky, and it just worked. Mr. X, Albert Wesker clone, Zeno, Hunk versus Leon, the RPD, Raccoon City, it's just absolutely amazing. The one gripe I truly have with this game is that the replayability of Resident Evil Requiem, at least for me, isn't as good. The Resident Evil franchise is known and notorious for being so replayable, and you know, you can do different challenges and different playthroughs and whatnot, and it's always fun. I just don't think this Resident Evil game is as replayable as its counterparts. Also, in my opinion, the gameplay animation for Leon is not as smooth and crispy as Resident Evil 4 Remake. I don't know why. It's still fucking amazing, don't get me wrong. It's just not as smooth, let's just say that, as Resident Evil 4 Remake. But that's more of a nitpick than anything else, really. Like I said, if you want a more in-depth review of Resident Evil Requiem, I have that uploaded on the channel if you guys want to check that out. I'll leave a link in the description below. Overall, I would put Resident Evil Requiem and Residents Are Evil tier. for sure. I believe Resident Evil Requiem is one of the best Resident Evil games we ever gotten. I would put it on top of Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. I do believe that it is better than Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, in my opinion. Resident Evil Requiem, for me at least, is definitely a top 5 Resident Evil game. But there you have it, guys. This is my tier list of the mainline Resident Evil games. This is the definitive tier list. I don't care. Like, this is amazing. But on a serious note, if you guys agree or disagree with my list, please let me know down in the comments below. I would like to hear your guys' opinion on my list. But overall, Resident Evil games are purely amazing. As you can see from the mainline games at least, the Resident Evil franchise doesn't really have a horrible game. And like I said, the only reason I put Resident Evil OG and Hasta Luego is just because Resident Evil 1 Remake exists, and it just makes this game useless today. But that's it from me, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys like this sort of content where I just sit down here, yap about a bunch of stuff, whether, you know, it's video games, animes, hopefully soon movies and TV shows, I would appreciate if you guys hit that subscribe button, maybe even like the video and share it with a couple of your friends who have similar interests as we do. But that's it from me, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.